Hi, everybody. I am Trey, one of your average film enjoyers, and I am here to tell you that you can win over $500 worth of movie stuff. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're a huge movie fan. Obviously, you wouldn't be listening if you didn't love film like me and Jagger. And so me and Jagger, along with three other content creators on TikTok, Film Gunch, who we've had on here, Wes, who we've had on here a couple times, and then one of our good friends, Real Takes, we are all joined together doing a giveaway currently. And how you join this giveaway is you go to each of our pages. We all have the giveaway video pinned. And you'll go on to that video. You'll give us all a follow. We each account is tagged in every video. And then comment down below. Tag 5 of your friends. And if you tag 5 different friends in all 5 different videos, then you can get up to 30 entries. 30 entries. You can get up to 30 entries. So, but you're like, Trey, well, you're telling me about this, but I don't even know what I can win. Well, I'll tell you what you can win. Real Takes is donating a 4K Harry Potter collection, Blu-ray James Bond collection, I believe a 4K collection of the Planet of the Apes films, and the first 3 John Wick movies in 4K. I'm donating 3 criterions of your choice, so whoever wins get to choose 3 criterions, and we'll mail those to you. Jagger, my co-host, is donating a bunch of international DVDs. Gunch is donating Don Hertzfeld and I can't remember the other guy's name. Well, the animated show. It's a very limited edition animated sketch comedy show. He has a bunch of steelbooks of all 3 seasons, so he's donating those. And then the biggest one, Wes, is donating a region-free Blu-ray player. So, if any of those items interest you, again, go to any of our TikTok pages. Go to me and Jagger's TikTok page, Trey the Film Noob, Jagger Film Reviews. We have the videos pinned on top of our pages, so go check them out, follow the instructions. The giveaway ends when we are all 5 of us at 1,000 followers. And me and Jagger are the only ones that haven't hit 1,000 followers yet. So please help us get us there so we can give away all this movie merchandise. Now, let's get to the podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Average Film Enjoyer. I am one of your average film enjoyers, Trey, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Jagger. Jagger, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm happy to have guests on again.
Yeah. Again, today, like yesterday, we are again joined by our good friends, Allan and Will. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Ready to talk about, just one of the greatest horror movies ever made.
Yeah.
I think top 2.
Yeah. Will, what about you? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing amazing as well, and we're talking about the greatest horror movie today, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Is this your number 1?
Yeah, and number 2 all time.
Hell yeah. So today, if you haven't figured it out already, we are talking about one of my personal favorites. It was my all-time favorite horror film, my number 4 of all time for a long time. But then I rewatched The Exorcist, added that to my list of films that I rated 100 out of 100 as perfect films. And so now I'm going to have to think about that today. But we are discussing Stanley Kubrick, the guy who doesn't miss whatsoever, his horror masterpiece, The Shining, starring Jack Nicholson, Danny Boyle, and Shelley Duvall.
Danny Boyle.
Isn't that no? Danny Boyle's the director. Who plays the kid?
Danny Boyle's the director of Trainspotting.
No, I know, and Sunshine. Who plays? It's something really close to that. I know it.
Danny Lloyd.
Danny Lloyd. That's close. Yeah, we're talking about The Shining today. One of the all-time greats. And I have so many thoughts on this, but Will, I'm gonna send it to you first because I'm just going around my call here. What are you like after you watched this for the first time? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so the first time I watched this was probably 6-7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Did not like it at all, but I was not really big into movies at the time at all either. I
Yeah.
didn't really think it was scary. I didn't really understand it. I was just like threw it on because saw the hype it got. I was like, when is this over? I just kept staring at my watch. But then I watched it again a few years later and really liked it. And then I watched it a couple months ago, just out of the blue, and was like, okay, this is amazing. And then I went and saw it last week in theaters for the first time, which just totally put it over the moon as my favorite horror movie of all time. I mean, I think the Overlook Hotel is probably one of the most iconic settings for a horror movie ever. I think all the set, everything about it is just amazing. And I think the thing that makes the movie the best to me, obviously Jack Nicholson, standout acting. Shelley Duvall, overhated. I think she's amazing as well. Danny Lloyd, right?
Yeah.
I think he gives probably one of the best child performances I've ever seen. I mean, it was shocking to me to see he didn't go on to really do anything else outside of this. But I just love this movie. I think the tension between all the characters throughout the whole film is just so unnerving. You don't know what's gonna happen. You keep knowing something bad's about to happen, and just seeing all the events play out with Jack Nicholson's character is just amazing.
Yeah. Alan, what about you?
I mean, yeah, pretty much everything Will said. It's my second favorite of all time. I think, first being Hereditary, I think I kind of like them for the same reason, where there's sort of a feeling for like around half the movie of this like existential dread, and like it's kind of like a family drama you say with these characters, in kind of this enclosed space, and I don't know, it just builds itself, and then when you finally get to the horror aspects, I think it just does such a great job at freaking you out, even though like usually older movies don't really scare me or anything, but this one just has like a very uneasy feeling towards it with the finger. What's the kid's friend's name that lives? Tony.
Oh, Tony.
He lives in his
Yeah.
mouth.
Yeah.
Like that just freaks me out. But I remember the first time I watched this, I also hated it. I thought it was awful. I didn't watch movies like I do now back then. I think I had it maybe, if I had Letterboxd, I'd probably give it like a 2 or something. And then I rewatched it many years later, and it was just like an instant 5. Like you were saying, Trey, Stanley Kubrick is just a genre master, has a masterpiece in every genre you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
The acting is phenomenal. Jack Nicholson's best performance that I've seen. Shelley Duvall, very overhated, one of the best actress performances, I'd say. One of the best child performances. I know that production was like horrible from what I've heard to get through, because Stanley Kubrick is very picky, likes to do 800 shots per scene, but I mean, just what it came out to is just perfect. So I think every moment of making this film, it was worth it.
Yeah, 100%. Jagger, what about you? First time you watched it, thoughts?
First time I watched it, I went into it being told by my dad that it was the most terrifying movie ever made. Again, I feel like everyone not into movies watches this for the first time and is extremely disappointed by the build-up that it gets. And then later going back into it, now having a grasp on what makes a film good, I realized, wait a minute, this is a masterpiece. And then I went from that to 2001 to Barry Lyndon, so on and so forth. Made it through all of Kubrick's movies and said, wait a minute, film is something special. And that was kind of what started my film journey, The Shining. So
Yeah, it's me as well. I mean, first time I watched it was probably 3 years ago. So like, I liked movies. I liked watching movies. I wasn't terribly picky, but I didn't really understand for myself. Like, I couldn't be like, oh man, that shot was amazing. My dad, who we've had on the pod and who loves film, what would be like, yeah, this shot, this is what they did here, and and I'd be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, you know. But like I finished it and I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. That was Jack Nicholson gives a solid performance. He was really creepy. But then I rewatched it earlier this year, and I was just reminded how damn good it is. I mean, this is on my list. There's only 5 movies I've ever done this for. Is of 100 out of 100. It is a perfect film. There's not a single thing. See, but like it's always in contention with The Exorcist for me because that's my other horror film that I've given 100 out of 100 to. But I mean, it's like everything in this film is absolutely perfect. The acting, Jack Nicholson gives easily the best performance of his career. I think the only 2 movies that come close to matching with this is Chinatown and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Notice Allan and Will, I know you guys love it, but how I didn't say The Departed because Jack Nicholson is absolutely horrendous in that film.
Oh, I don't love it. Very good, but I don't love it.
No, it's easily Jack Nicholson's best performance. Shelley Duvall gives a very raw and emotional performance that I really enjoy. That definitely is overhated on. Danny Lloyd, not Danny Boyle, Danny Lloyd is right up there with Linda Blair for child horror performances. But you're right, it isn't scary, right? This film came out in 1980. I'm sure this was terrifying when it came out. But like this, like that's how a lot of older stuff is. There's very few older films that scare me. Like there's definitely some unsettling moments in this film, which we'll talk about in a sec. But there's nothing terribly scary here. And I just want to ask you guys, like, what is, in your opinion, like, obviously everything is great about this film, but what, in your opinion, is the best part? I mean, for me, it's either the cinematography and how revolutionary that was. So, like, that shot where it's the tracking shot behind Danny when he's riding his big wheel. That's the first time. This is the first time in any film, in like film history, that shot was used. And like the shots where they're walking through the big living space and it's tracking them sideways. I mean, all of the cinematography is absolutely revolutionary and outstanding in this film. Or Jack Nicholson's performance is top tier. But I'm wondering what for you guys. What's the best part for you? Alan, I'll kick it to you first. What is the best part of this film for you?
I mean, I think it's just the setting, the production design. I think it's its own character in the movie. It's the thing that kind of unsettles me the most. Like you were saying, it's not very like scary, like traditional horror movies, but there's just this form of unsettlingness that just I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. Like in the scene where he's speaking to the guy that murdered his daughters and his wife. I forgot what his name was.
Oh God, yeah.
Just like how like I don't know how perfect the room is, and it's all red, and then like each stall is so perfectly aligned. It's just so freaky, man. I don't know. And then all like the hallways, well, they're not endless. They feel like they are. When he's going down where the pantry is, that hallway is just scary. Like you were saying when he was riding the tricycle, it just seems like an endless hallway of doors, which I think alludes to some other themes that Kubrick was going for. I've like read somewhere that you probably know, Will, that like the numbers on the doors mean stuff. Just everything about the production design, I think. Just it's his own character in the movie. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Will, what about you? What's the best part about this movie for you?
I just think the production design as well is just too hard to pass. I mean, each place you could explore in the Overlook is just so much color, so vibrant. It really does add its own character, adds to the dread. I mean, I think it might be the best production design, maybe one of the best production designs of all time. The best setting for a horror movie for sure. What you're saying about the camera movement, I think I would have to say I really liked how they shot the final maze chase with Danny and Jack. I thought that was probably my favorite
Yeah,
sequence of the film, I would say.
yeah. Jagger, what about you?
All right, yeah. So the everything being its own character thing is something that I've studied. I wrote an essay for school about The Shining and how every single detail, sound design, cinematography, location, color palette, everything is its own character and plays more of a role than some of the characters in this movie. But that aside, I'm gonna touch back on the concept that you hit, Trey, that this movie's not scary, and I'm gonna combat you with that and say that when it comes down to it,
Yeah.
having watching this movie like late at night in the dark, there's something so extremely haunting about the sound of Danny's wheel going on and off the carpet.
Mm.
Yeah.
And other moments that watching this in the day, it might seem cheesy. However, watching it at night, there's something about all of it that gets under your skin. And I think that the way that Kubrick does that with, and you can even go to like Eyes Wide Shut, um, the complete, almost nightmarish, methodical horror that he touches on. And
Yeah.
that comes up in a lot of his movies. 2001 could even be creepy if you watch that at night. I mean, everything in a if you look at it from a open-minded perspective in a way where you are open-minded, every single one of his movies has something about it that has
Mm-hmm.
a bleak, unnerving undertone to it, which is just another thing that makes him, like you said, a master. And all of his movies are a masterclass of directing. So I would say that yes, in the right circumstances, this movie could be pretty terrifying. And of course, when this came out, it was probably horrifying.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the biggest thing that unnerves me, and I know Stanley Kubrick did this on purpose. And I just want to mention this note, and then I have a question for Will. Is the amount of times Jack Nicholson looks into the camera, right? And it's not like Deadpool looks into the camera, like that level of breaking the fourth wall, but it's these quick little glances where he'll just like lock eyes with the camera and then look away. I've read Stanley Kubrick because I have a book in my room like about Stanley Kubrick and all of his films and like the production and what went into making them. And he talks about that was super intentional to make the audience feel like kind of like uncomfortable, kind of like Jack was gonna come after them next, and that was the intention behind that. So Jagger, I couldn't agree with you more. But Will, I wanted to ask you. So you said you saw this in the movie theater like last week, and when you said that, I was like, God, what would this be like to see this in the theater? Specifically, the the shot where they are driving to the Overlook Hotel. It's the opening credits where it's like, and the score, the absolutely
Yeah, I was gonna say,
haunting,
talk about
the
that.
boom,
So
boom, boom, and that
Yeah.
that shot. I just wanted to ask you, like, and this film as a whole, what was that like experiencing that in the theater? Because that, for film fans, is like a very rare occurrence where you get to experience some of your favorite films in the theater, especially when they're older films like The Shining. But what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just it just adds so much. I mean, you really feel like you're there in the car. I mean, I was lucky to be in the middle too, so the speakers just right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just the bum bum, like what you said. Just it
Yeah.
was just insane to be able to see. I mean, I felt like I was there. I felt like I was
Mm-hmm.
in the Overlook Hotel. I mean, I just think that's the biggest strength of getting to see these kind of films in the theater. I mean, you really feel like you're in there with the characters, engaged, just right there with them. And I just think it adds. I mean, I think seeing a movie in theaters adds so much to it. Even if you didn't really love it, if you see a movie you didn't really love, worth giving a second chance. Seeing it in a theater can just totally flip your brain to it because it's insane. It's hard to wrap what exactly it adds to it, but you just really feel like you're a part of a movie, which I think is so unique and really cool.
Yeah. And I wanted to tell. So the Overlook Hotel, I know we've talked about this a lot on this episode, the production set. So the inside of the Overlook Hotel was filmed at this hotel in Colorado. Like, you can go visit it. You can go walk around in this hotel, which has always been a dream of mine. But all these shots that are on the outside of the Overlook Hotel were shot at a place called Timberline Lodge, which is actually like an hour away from me. And so I grew up like going to Timberline Lodge, like up on the mountain, when we go sledding and stuff and we go visit Timberline Lodge. And, we went a couple years ago after I had watched this film, and like driving up to Timberline and seeing it there, I'm just like, I don't trust this, man. I don't trust this. And yeah, I mean, this film is just so iconic. It's constantly referenced in the media we get now. I mean, anything from the Here's Johnny scene to The Shining itself, it's constantly getting referenced. It's totally aged like a fine wine.
Didn't they reference it in Barbie?
No, I don't know if they referenced that in Barbie, but I know they referenced 2001 in Barbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, wait. There was one part where Margot Robbie was sitting in the car
Yeah.
with what's her name?
America Ferrera?
Yeah. And then she saw the memory thing again. And the daughter, Sasha, says, "What, are you two shining or something? Are you shining with Barbie?"
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that, but I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so iconic. Does anybody have any final thoughts that they are urging to get out there?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if just I'm ill and my theater was ill, but I also thought there were times where it was actually pretty funny, like where Shelley Duvall would ask, "Don't you think that, hun?" And Jack Nicholson just looks like he doesn't want to be bothered at all, and he's just like, "Yeah." And it, at those moments every time, just had me in the theater dying laughing because he just seems like he's pissed and doesn't want to be in the relationship. It's just so funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's a really interesting thing, because I think even from the beginning, obviously the more we get into this film, the more we see Jack as a psycho and like a sociopath. But I think even from the beginning, he's a psycho, and I think he kind of like breaks it in little scenes. Like when they're driving in the car, there's a shot of him where like he looks like he's smiling, but you look into his eyes and you're like, okay, this guy, like Jack Nicholson just does such an Jack Nicholson does an unbelievable job in this film. But if nobody has any final thoughts, I believe we all have this at 5 stars.
Yeah.
If you don't have this 5 stars, what are you doing? This is an easy 5. Yeah, thank you again, Will, Allan, for joining us today. Go check them out on the film... No, not Filmsomniacs. That's Guntran West. The Fistful of Films podcast. Currently working their way through Tarantino's filmography. And every week they also talk about some of the new releases that came out that week. It's a great pod. They play games with the 4 of them, along with Jordan and Seb. So go check that out. If you want to follow me at my socials, I'm Trey the Film Noob everywhere, and he is Jagger Film Fan on Letterboxd, Jagger Film Reviews on TikTok, and Jagger the Movie Guy on Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter. So thank you again for listening today on the Average Film Enjoyer Hooptober edition, and we hope you have a spooky rest of your day.